the revenge I deserved. I've always considered myself a successful person. Yes, I had it all: money, power, respect. But now I realize that sometimes success may not be enough to keep what's most important. My name is John Carter, and here's my story. Once upon a time, when I was just starting my journey to the top, I thought the most important thing was success. I wanted it all at once: to build an empire, to become a business legend, to make a mark on the world. And for that, I was willing to sacrifice everything. Even my family. Laura. She was an incredible woman. Beautiful, smart, strong. She believed in me, supported me in all my endeavors. We were young, ambitious, and the world seemed ours. We dreamed together, made plans for the future, and nothing seemed to be able to stop us. But as time went on, things changed. Business demanded more and more time, energy, attention. I began to stay late at the office, coming home only to fall into bed and get up again early in the morning. Gradually, I began to drift away from Laura, from our son Alex. Evening calls from coworkers, endless business dinners, trips to other cities, all of it consumed me completely. And even though Laura knew what was going on, she continued to tolerate it. She saw me immersed in my work, missing weeks on business trips, rarely being home as a family. I remember her looking at me, trying to figure out where the man she loved was going. But I was so caught up in my own goals that I didn't notice her suffering. As time went on, other women came along. I met them, spent time with them, found comfort in fleeting liaisons. Laura guessed everything, but she kept silent. She hoped I would come to my senses, that I would return to her and our son. But instead, I kept going farther and farther away. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. One evening when I came home late as usual, she was standing in the hallway with her suitcases. Her face was pale, with tears in her eyes, but determined. She said she was leaving. Taking Alex and going to another town. Where no one knows them, where she can start a new life. I stood there, not knowing what to say. Something clenched inside, but I couldn't utter a word. I just nodded, like it was a normal decision. That same day they left, leaving me alone in our big house. At the time, I thought I could handle it. That my life would stay the same, that work and success would make up for the loss of my family. I continued to date different women, some of them even lived with me for a while. But nothing filled the void left by Laura and Alex's departure. At first, I convinced myself that everything was fine. That I was in control, that success was replacing the warmth of home. But gradually the illusions began to dissipate. Every new victory stopped pleasing, every deal seemed meaningless. Money no longer mattered, power lost its appeal. A void was growing inside me that could not be filled by anything external. With each passing year, I realized more and more how much my life had changed. Success no longer brought joy, money no longer mattered. I realized that I had lost the most important thing: the love and support of those who were closest to me. Laura and Alex remained in my memory, but they were far away, and I didn't know how to get them back. The years flew by and now I was in my 60s. My business was thriving. I had become one of the most influential and respected entrepreneurs in the country. I had everything one can dream of: money, power, prestige. The world lay at my feet, but inside I felt an emptiness that grew deeper every day. My health was also beginning to fail. The doctors discovered an incurable disease, and the prognosis was bleak. This news hit me like a thunderclap. All my successes, all my accomplishments suddenly lost all meaning. The life I had been so proud of began to seem empty and meaningless. I began to wonder, what was it all for if there was only the end ahead? Day by day I realized that all my success was just a facade, behind which lay deep loneliness and disappointment. The external glitter could not hide the inner emptiness. Money and power no longer brought me joy. On the contrary, they reminded me of how many important things I had missed out on in life. The pursuit of success that had once propelled me forward now seemed vain and futile. I felt like an old and sick man standing on the edge of a precipice, without support or understanding. Alex. I had almost forgotten what it was like to be a father. Our infrequent contact was reduced to rare phone conversations. Not because I didn't want to talk to him, but because I was afraid to hear the judgment in his voice. Because I knew he hated me. For abandoning them, for being absent during the most important moments of his childhood. I felt that a wall had grown between us that no amount of money could break through. But now, as death loomed over me, I thought of him more and more often, and my heart ached. The pain of loss, of missed opportunities, of unspoken words. And then one day, I got an unexpected phone call. It was Alex. His voice sounded hoarse, tired, but determined. He said he wanted to meet. I hesitated, but in my heart I hoped that this meeting would be the beginning of a new stage in our relationship. Perhaps we could talk frankly, discuss the past, try to connect. I agreed, even though I was uneasy in my heart. We agreed to meet at a restaurant. The place was neutral, quiet, with dimmed lights and quiet background music. I arrived first, ordered a coffee and waited. My heart was pounding, like when I was young before an important business meeting. But this was a different kind of excitement, anxious, unsure. When Alex walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked older than his years, his face gaunt, his hair graying prematurely. His eyes were as cold as the last time we'd spoken. He sat down across from me without saying hello and stared at me for a long time, as if assessing me. "Do you know why I'm here?" he finally asked. I shook my head, feeling my fingers shake. I wanted to say something reassuring, but the words stuck in my throat. "I want to destroy you," he said calmly, but with an icy determination in his voice. "I want to destroy your business to the ground. For everything you've done to my mom and me." The world around me froze. My hands trembled, my coffee cup nearly toppled onto the table. I tried to collect my thoughts, to find the words, but my brain refused to work. Everything I'd accomplished was in jeopardy. But what struck me most of all was the determination in my son's eyes. Never before had I seen such an expression on a man's face. "Why?" I finally squeezed out, feeling a lump in my throat. "What did I do?" He sighed, lowering his gaze to the table. He seemed to be struggling with himself, trying to contain his emotions. "Don't you remember how Mommy cried at night when you were gone?" he asked quietly. "She was broken, crushed by your betrayal and indifference. She had to struggle alone, to find work to feed us. She did her best, but the stress and loneliness was stronger. When she found it hard to cope, she started drinking. I watched her fade day by day. I saw her eyes lose their light, her hope leave her. I was a child, helpless, unable to help her. But I'm an adult now. And I will make you feel the same pain we felt." His words pierced me like a knife. I remembered Laura, her tears, her desperation. I remembered them leaving, and I thought I could do without them. But I never thought about what they were going through. Never imagined the pain I had caused those I loved. Now that pain came back to me, but in the form of the icy stare of my own son. The next few months became a nightmare. Every new day brought another problem. Every night I went to sleep with a heavy heart, knowing that tomorrow would be even worse. Alex began to attack my business systematically and methodically. At first it was small blows, leaks of confidential information, loss of key clients. I wrote it off as an accident, an unfortunate coincidence. But soon more serious troubles began: lawsuits, investigations, financial difficulties. My name began to appear in negative contexts in the press, and the company's reputation plummeted. Everything I had built over many years began to crumble before my eyes. The financial collapse was approaching inexorably, and I could feel the ground slipping away from under my feet. But that wasn't the worst part. The scariest part was the realization that I had been blind all along. I really thought I could control everything, that success was more important than family. Now I realized my mistake. But it was too late. One night, as I sat in my office pondering another problem, the door opened and Alex walked in. His face was grim, but I caught something new in his eyes: tiredness, maybe even pity. He approached my desk and stopped, looking down at me. Why are you doing this? I'm sick. I don't have long to live, I whispered, feeling my voice shake. He sat down across from me, looking straight into my eyes. His gaze was hard, but there was a depth to it that I hadn't noticed before. Because you have to understand what it means to lose everything, he said. What it means to feel abandoned and unwanted. Mom was gone 2 years ago. Alcohol destroyed her. And I was left alone. You left us both, and now I want you to experience the same emptiness that has lived inside me all these years. His voice shook, and a tear slowly rolled down his cheek. In that moment, I realized it wasn't just about business. It was about the pain I had caused my loved ones. It was about the opportunity one had lost to right the wrongs of the past. I looked at my son, a grown man who was once a little boy in need of a father's love and support. And I realized that I couldn't blame him for what he was doing. It was my own fault for what had happened. We sat in silence, both of us immersed in our own thoughts. Finally, Alex stood up and headed for the door. Before he walked out, he turned around and said, "You deserve this, Father. You deserve to feel the same pain we've felt all these years." In the end, my business collapsed, turned to ashes. But honestly, it didn't matter anymore. I lost so much more of my family, my love, my trust. Everything that really mattered. After our last meeting, Alex disappeared. I never saw him again. But his words stayed with me forever. They made me think about who I am. About what values are really important in life. I now live in a small apartment that I managed to save, and use what's left to keep myself healthy and help others. Perhaps this is my way of atoning for those I have betrayed. But most importantly, I strive to become a better, more honest and kinder person. Sometimes I think about Laura and Alex. About the pain they've been through. And I hope that one day Alex will be able to forgive me. At least partially. Because I know I deserve to be punished. But I also believe that everyone is entitled to a second chance. And I hope I get one. This story is not just a story about revenge and destruction. It's a story about how easy it is to lose your most precious possessions in the pursuit of success. About the consequences of our decisions. And how important it is to remember that real wealth is not money and power, but the love and support of loved ones.